I dated my best friend, we broke up, and now she's back with my toxic ex who destroyed our friendship. What even is happening? Okay, so I know the title sounds bad, but here is the backstory. In high school, I, 20, female, dated my best friend, 20, female. We were in a relationship for about 2 years and eventually ended things because I am not gay. The breakup was entirely mutual, and we both wanted to remain friends since we had been best friends before anything romantic developed, and we believed we could move on from it. Fast forward to the summer after our freshman year, I studied abroad while she stayed home. Let's call her Bailey. While I was abroad, I started dating someone who was part of the same program as me. I obviously shared everything with Bailey because that is how we relate to each other. About a month into my new relationship, she informed me that she and a friend from home, 19, female, liked each other, and a few days later they began dating. Let's refer to the friend as Tina. The three of us hung out all the time together, as she was our closest friend. So Bailey and Tina began dating, and honestly, I was genuinely happy for them. I was concerned about how our group dynamic might change, but I assumed everything would be fine. Tina was aware of the entire history between Bailey and me and knew we remained best friends. Fast forward to my return home for the rest of the summer, and the three of us hung out, but immediately, things felt off. I thought maybe it was just me, and that I hadn't adjusted yet, so I decided to give myself time. One weekend, the three of us attended a music festival together. This had been planned months in advance, long before Bailey and Tina started dating. As we drove down to the festival, which was about 2 hours away, Tina was acting strangely towards me, making passive-aggressive comments and being somewhat rude. I again thought it was probably just my perception. We arrived a night early and spent time at our Airbnb, where Bailey and Tina were all over each other. It was just the three of us. They were kissing, hugging, and expressing how much they liked each other. I felt uncomfortable, not because Bailey was my ex, but because I felt like a third wheel. Tina's behavior worsened. She disagreed with me on everything, even the most minor issues, as if I were wrong, and would laugh at my opinions. However, I tried to brush it off. The next day, while discussing which artists we wanted to see at the festival, Bailey and I had one performer we both loved, and I expressed my desire to see her. Tina responded, "Well, her and Bailey don't really want to see her, so maybe you can just go alone." I attempted to make my case, but eventually she refused. I felt a bit upset, but numerous artists were performing, and I was still excited to see most of them, so I tried to overlook it. I could have gone alone, but as a 20-year-old female, I didn't feel comfortable being by myself at a large festival. Throughout the entire festival, Tina ensured that Bailey and I didn't speak. She constantly stood between us, and if I began talking, she would talk over me or ignore me entirely. Whatever. When we returned to the Airbnb that evening, I felt upset because it seemed like my best friends completely disregarded me, as they had been acting like I didn't exist all day. The following day continued in the same manner, but other friends joined us, so I was fortunate to spend most of the day with them. We had planned to drive home right after the festival to avoid paying for an additional night at the Airbnb, an idea I proposed, which Tina repeatedly criticized. They sat in the front, while I sat in the back, fighting back tears and attempting to sleep all the way home. We stopped for a bathroom break at one point, and I couldn't even look at either of them due to my distress. The plan was to go to Tina's house for the night, but after everything that had occurred, I didn't want to do that. When we arrived at her house, I stated that I would just head home. Bailey offered to come with me. I insisted multiple times that she stay behind. I said I would take the car and return to pick her up in the morning so she could go home. However, she insisted on accompanying me. After a few minutes of arguing, I finally relented and we left together, which made Tina very upset. On the way to my house, I expressed to Bailey how uncomfortable I had felt throughout the weekend and how I perceived their behavior as either extremely rude or completely ignoring me. It wasn't much of a confrontation. She apologized, and that was about it. After that, I didn't spend time alone with them again. A few weeks later, Bailey and I started college. We moved in together a week before classes began, and everything was fine. After that week, Tina came to our school, she attends the same one as us, and began to make my life a complete nightmare. She was always upset with Bailey because we lived together, claiming it made her uncomfortable when we were home alone. Mind you, I am very much not gay and have a boyfriend. She knew both of our locations and constantly monitored them. Whenever she was around me, she treated me like a pariah, as if I didn't exist, and if I spoke, she would respond rudely. One day, we all had lunch together, and she wouldn't even look at me. I tried asking questions about school and other topics, but she just stared past me and gave me one-word responses. Not long after school started, my boyfriend broke up with me, leaving me heartbroken. The day after, Tina came over and made comments like, "Were you guys even really dating? And did your family even know about him?" Yes to both, by the way. Not once did she express any sympathy or even say she was sorry for me, which was incredibly upsetting, as we had been best friends before all of this unfolded. I couldn't understand how someone could throw a friendship away simply because they started dating my ex and then act as if it was my fault. But whatever. A few weeks later, we planned to attend another concert again, organized months prior. It was one of my favorite artists whom Bailey and I had connected over throughout the years. The concert was also a few hours away, and we were picking up another friend on the way, thank goodness. During the drive there, I sat in the back, listening to my own music and reading a book. I wasn't particularly interested in talking to either of them. When we picked up our other friend, she and I sat in the back together and chatted freely. In high school, the three of us had been very close, and any time she and I spoke, Tina would immediately engage Bailey in conversation to keep her from joining us. Once we reached the hotel, Tina made everyone uncomfortable. She was visibly angry throughout the entire time and made sure everyone was aware of it. When we arrived at the concert, she positioned herself between me and Bailey. Honestly, it would have been fine if she had spoken to me or been nice, but she simply couldn't manage to be pleasant. At one point, Bailey and I did have a conversation, and Tina interrupted us. It was truly the only time we spoke during the entire trip. When we returned home, Bailey confided in me about her distress regarding her relationship with Tina. She mentioned that Tina was controlling and would become upset every time Bailey and I hung out. Tina commented on where Bailey was going throughout the day and told her what she should and shouldn't do. She became upset when Bailey went to campus without making an effort to see her. Tina tried to come home with Bailey as often as possible, insisting that they shouldn't be apart. And this was just the beginning. They would have talks frequently, and every time Bailey attempted to express how she felt, Tina would dismiss her concerns. If Bailey pointed out that Tina's behavior was hurtful, Tina would blame Bailey, saying she only acted that way because of her. Additionally, Tina told Bailey that she made her develop trust issues. Essentially, Tina attributed everything wrong in their relationship to Bailey. About a month later, after numerous discussions about their relationship, Tina broke up with Bailey, stating it was because of me and that she couldn't trust her, whatever that means. Over the following months, they would hang out with a group of friends occasionally, and every time they did, they would hook up. Whatever. Recently, they hung out and hooked up again, and Bailey came home saying she was crashing out because she missed being with Tina, who is toxic, manipulative, controlling, and abusive. I noticed her phone background had changed to a picture of the two of them, and I lost my mind. I began yelling at Bailey, expressing my distress over the fact that she could possibly miss someone who had treated both of us so poorly. I ended up apologizing, of course. However, during our conversation, Bailey made a remark that they only broke up because of me. I replied, "You can't truly believe I was the sole reason you two ended things." She remained silent. So I suggested she get back together with Tina. The only reason I made that comment was to help Bailey realize that I was not responsible for their breakup. They ended things because of Tina's controlling behavior. It had nothing to do with me. Tina has had issues with several of Bailey's other close friends. She only dislikes me so much because of my closeness with Bailey. I have made my feelings about this situation very clear to Bailey on multiple occasions, but she insists that Tina is the love of her life, even though they only dated for 3 months. She claims their relationship couldn't work previously because she was in a bad place. She was in a bad place because of Tina. Whatever. Now they are seeing each other again, and I am unsure how to feel. Honestly, it has led me to question my friendship with Bailey. I understand going back to an ex who treated you poorly, but I cannot comprehend going back to an ex who mistreated your friends. Bailey argues that it's unfair because, naturally, Tina would feel uncomfortable with our friendship. While I somewhat agree, I believe this shouldn't apply since Tina was aware of everything. She was one of our best friends throughout high school and witnessed the entire relationship play out. I would understand her discomfort if she hadn't known initially, but that's not the case. She was a close friend and knew everything. Bailey has attempted to justify Tina's treatment of me, and that's honestly where I reached my breaking point. To me, there is absolutely no justification for treating your partner's friends poorly. But now, I'm uncertain about what to do and I feel crazy. Maybe Tina is right. Am I the antagonist? Story 2. How can I, 25F, remove my friend, 26M, from my life without starting a bunch of drama? I do not wish to engage in all the absurd drama, but I'm open to answering any questions in the comments. A summary is provided at the end. I have known my friend Azalea, 24 years old, female, for over a decade, and she is virtually the only person I still communicate with from high school. A few years ago, she relocated to another city. Let us refer to it as Clivesdale, and I visit quite often. It is over an hour's drive, and she does not possess a car. About 18 months ago, she began sharing an apartment with a friend Biscuit, 26 years old, male, the individual mentioned in the title. I met him, we hit it off wonderfully, etc. The three of us developed a fantastic dynamic, and I would consider us best friends. Approximately 1 year ago, Biscuit and I began dating. It was a very casual arrangement, especially given our long-distance situation, but that did not seem to ease the situation for Azalea, who had feelings for Biscuit. I was aware of her feelings and had previously attempted to encourage a connection between them, but he appeared completely unaware. I later found out that he seemingly knew her feelings, but had forgotten and assumed she no longer held those emotions. This is the level of insensitivity we can anticipate from Biscuit. Regardless, all three of us invested considerable effort into repairing our relationships and ensuring the friendship remained intact, which we all agreed was more important than anything else. I ended the relationship with Biscuit 2 months later. I felt that we were better off as friends, and while it was enjoyable, it felt more like an experiment for both of us, especially since we had been out of the dating scene for quite some time. At that time, Azalea was involved in a friends with benefits situation with someone else. Biscuit expressed disinterest in that guy. For the record, the guy is fine, and asked Azalea about transitioning into a similar arrangement with him instead. Azalea, naturally, told me about this development and mentioned that she wanted time to consider it, which seemed reasonable given that she was, and still is, genuinely in love with him. However, we never had the opportunity for that to develop because I visited a week later and all three of us entered into a relationship together. For clarity, Azalea and I were always open to polyamory, but we believed he was too inclined toward monogamy, given his repeated self-descriptions as monogamous. After extensive discussions about what polyamory meant for us, we agreed to form a closed triad, and we maintained that arrangement for 4 months. Our commitment was profound. I traveled to visit whenever I could. Biscuit does not drive either, and we talked about the possibility of my eventually relocating to their city, moving in together, and even starting a family in the future. Azalea has always aspired to do so, and Biscuit seemed uncertain but expressed willingness if it were to include the three of us, etc. However, the situation eventually fell apart. Azalea confessed that she did not have any feelings for me despite her considerable effort and felt insecure whenever she observed me with Biscuit. That was a significant blow, but we took the only course of action available. I exited the relationship, and they continued to date. We all endeavored to remain candid with one another and prioritize preserving the friendship, and I would argue we succeeded. I continued to visit Clivesdale frequently and spend time with our mutual friends there. I have a boyfriend in that city. I participate in a Discord server where we play games regularly, and my social circle in Clivesdale keeps expanding as I meet friends of friends at various events. This marks perhaps the happiest I've been socially in years. However, I regret to say that was all mere preamble. Azalea and Biscuit were together for another 4 months before he reached out to warn me about his intention to break up with her. I did not pressure him to elaborate on the reasons. Instead, I attempted to encourage him to pursue what was right for him in a manner that would, hopefully, not devastate her or make her feel too betrayed. He inquired whether there could be a chance for us again. I responded with a definitive no. He attempted to end things with her. She resisted. He struggled to articulate his reasons, while she expressed a desire to resolve the issues in their relationship. Consequently, they opened their relationship. To this day, I cannot comprehend what transpired. A few weeks later, he ended things completely with her. That is what he told me. From her perspective, they broke up but agreed to maintain a friends with benefits relationship, modeled after their roommate and his partner, who, by the way, have been officially dating the whole time, having made it official just last week. As time went on, he informed me that he had made it clear to her that a reconciliation was not on the table, and they were gradually untangling their lives from each other. He stated that he believed he might be aromantic and had never had feelings for Azalea. He also expressed that he had feelings for me. Again, he asked if there could be any possibilities. I reiterated my position no. Azalea informed me that they still share the same bed, her bed, on alternating nights, and that they schedule a daily kiss. I was astounded and asked her why she allowed him to treat her in such a manner. Does she not deserve the opportunity to move on? She stated that she was in a situation and recognized she was being manipulated, but she wanted to play it out while she mourns the relationship. I am concerned about the ramifications for her mental health. I questioned him about it, without revealing that Azalea had shared this information with me. He acknowledged sleeping in the same bed, but claimed he only did so when Azalea was too depressed following the breakup. He denied kissing her and said that his therapist stated it was normal to revert to old behaviors as long as they did not kiss or engage in sexual activities. He assured me they were doing neither. He also mentioned that it was quite difficult living with someone like Azalea, who has a mental illness, though he could not recall the specific illness, mistakenly thinking it was bipolar disorder. He had only dated her for 8 months and had lived with her for almost 2 years. He continued to insist that I needed to understand just how much better the situation was compared to how codependent they previously were. He questioned why I was demanding he create more distance when he had already made so many changes. He realizes that responding to Azalea's depressive episodes with affection, like a band-aid, is not a solution, but he cannot help himself. She means a great deal to him. She is his best friend. They will always share something profound. Later that night, they had a conversation. He returned, beaming with pride, to tell me that they would cease sharing the same bed. He conceded that it was Azalea's suggestion. A couple of weeks later, it was Azalea's birthday. He was supposed to organize the party, but he completely fell apart when the initial venue fell through, ultimately leaving her to take charge and plan everything herself. She pulled me aside and announced that they were in a much better place now. She had put a stop to sharing the same bed, kissing, and casual intimacy. Then, she asked him to have sex with her, and he agreed, so now they maintained a friends with benefits arrangement. I felt like I was losing my mind. This separation has taken months to develop. Azalea's mental health has been precariously hanging by a thread. They are deceiving most people in their lives about the true nature of their relationship. He is unaware that I know the truth and will never admit it to me. I genuinely believe he is making grave errors and leading her on because he is a thoughtless, selfish, and insensitive individual. She is convinced that he still has feelings for her, and I cannot fault her for thinking that when he refuses to affirm that he does not have feelings for her, that he is not genuinely attracted to her. Each time the topic arises, he waxes poetic about how they are each other's person, regardless of the dynamics of their relationship, and how he wishes to have her in his life forever. Yet, he will disclose that to me. Why burden me with this information? I had to convey to her that discovering he was genuinely going through with all of this caused me to lose respect for him. She appeared somewhat unsettled and said, "Oh, come on, he's just a guy, and we like him." I cannot engage in that charade. We are no longer involved with him. I have not shared any of the dreadful comments he has made about her. I am uncertain if I should. I do not know if it would have any impact. She also mentioned that he had a significant emotional breakdown in her arms, questioning whether I would perceive him as a bad person. Me, the person he is deceiving regarding his actions. The person whose best friend he is jeopardizing. He is fully aware of how I would feel. In summary, my best friends were in a relationship. Now they are not. He continues to lead her on, and I am becoming increasingly fatigued by the effort to demonstrate to this inconsiderate man-child how to be a kind and decent person. How do I removal him from my life without losing my best friend and igniting a significant drama bomb in our entire friend group? Everyone is interconnected in Clivesdale, and I do not want to stop visiting there. I have many good friends who are also their friends but have encouraged me to maintain some distance, and my wonderful boyfriend lives there as well. Story 3. From online friends to a love triangle, I navigate emotions as my best friend's jealousy complicates my new romance. What now? This situation began last year when I chose to download an application to connect with more K-pop enthusiasts. I met this individual, whom I will refer to as Jen, and we quickly became close friends. One evening, feeling quite bored, we decided to add someone to our phone call and play a game of 21 questions. Jen introduced me to a guy named Jay, and at that time, she shared that there was an amusing backstory between them. She hadn't spoken to him in a long time since he had transferred schools and provided me with a brief overview of his background before including him in the call. This marked the first instance she had communicated with him in quite a while. Jen also mentioned that, in the past, they had drunkenly kissed on 2 occasions, but neither viewed the other in a romantic light. She considered him more like a brother. This was 2 years before we met. As time progressed, we all formed a close bond and became a trio. The interesting part is that they do not reside in the same state as I do, making them online and long-distance friends in my eyes. Consider this point. We ended up talking on the phone almost every day, although they lived only a few blocks apart from one another. They chose to hang out again, and I was thrilled because Jen hadn't seen them for quite some time. I thought I had rekindled a friendship that felt great for the past few months, but then, unexpectedly, Jay and I developed feelings for each other. He was consistently supportive and revealed a different side to me than previous guys. We started discussing the idea of being together and whether we were ready for a long-distance relationship. Meanwhile, Jay and Jen reunited that summer, and his old mindset of them kissing resurfaced. He felt it would be awkward if they didn't repeat their previous actions, even though they had been intoxicated during those moments. However, this time, Jen was sober and told him no. Jen later confided in me about this experience, though she was unaware of our mutual feelings because when he asked her if he could kiss her, it made her realize that their past encounters left her feeling used, despite their intoxication. She was contemplating whether to end their friendship that summer, and I didn't want my feelings for him to influence her decision about remaining friends with him because she was genuinely hurt. I decided to let her make her decision without interference from my emotions, as she is also considerate of my feelings. During the rest of the summer, she chose to take a break from him. My birthday also falls in the summer, and Jay decided to post about me on his social media and ordered delivery from the state where he lives, since he liked me. Jen was upset because she thought, he has never done that for me, even though she had known him longer. He had treated her to things before, but never in a way that made her feel valued as a true friend, which meant a lot to her since they were best friends. On my birthday, he also asked me to be his girlfriend, and I accepted because I was genuinely happy I had never been treated this way before and waited about 2 weeks to see if the relationship would progress well. It did. Jay and I wanted to make it official. However, before proceeding, I felt it necessary to discuss everything with Jen, so I decided to include her in a 3-way call. She appeared upset that I hadn't informed her sooner about our relationship after it had started. When I had a separate call with her, I explained why I didn't tell her immediately, and she expressed a desire to take a small break from me. Nevertheless, I still wanted to check in on her because I love her. She is my best friend. Thankfully, she forgave me, and everything went back to normal. Fast forward 2 months later, Jen began college, which is crucial to note. Jay and I made our relationship official, and everything seemed fine until Jen contacted me, expressing that she wanted to maintain her friendship with Jay, despite the hurt he caused her in the past, prior to knowing me. I encouraged her to do so because I care about both of them, but she felt that Jay barely talked to her anymore, which might stem from his new relationship. While I understand the need to focus on your partner, I told him he needed to reach out to her. Jay explained that he wanted to, but he feared that if he initiated contact, she would respond with anger, so he opted not to communicate with her to avoid worsening her feelings. I made it clear to him that the issue was his lack of communication, especially since she was genuinely trying to give him another chance, regardless of their shared history. Jay is somewhat introverted, and he often struggles to express his true emotions as he fears hurting others. While I was successfully helping him open up more, he still struggled to communicate with Jen. She felt hurt knowing he could express himself to me but not to her, despite their past friendship. I empathized with both sides, but it was painful to be caught in the middle between my best friend and my boyfriend. Jen wanted him to be a true friend and treat her right, while Jay wished to be that person for her but felt uncertain about how to approach it. He mentioned finding it easier to understand how to make me happy than to navigate the complexities with Jen, whom he felt was more demanding, leaving him afraid of failing. Now, back to Jen and her college experience. There was a guy she found attractive, whom we will refer to as Jake. I encouraged her to interact with him to cultivate a new friendship, which she did. Additionally, she had another close friend from middle school named Liv who also attended the same college. Jen and Jake grew close, but he eventually revealed that he was not interested in a romantic relationship, leading her to lose interest in him and instead pursue a friendship. While spending time together at school, he noticed she seemed sad and learned about her situation with Jay, listening intently as she cried about her feelings towards him. He provided her comfort, assuring her that she would be okay. When Jen relayed this to me, I was somewhat puzzled as to why she would share her feelings with someone she had only known for a week. I understood that close bonds can form quickly, but I felt it important to ensure that Jake wasn't exploiting the situation. Fortunately, he was genuinely supporting her. Jen shared a realization with me. She recognized, through her discussions with Jake, that her emotional investment in Jay was evident, as she often cried over him. It astonished me, as I had previously asked her if she had feelings for him, and she claimed she did not, indicating her distress over how Jay treated me better than he had treated her. She expressed her wish to confide in me about this, stating that she found it strange because she couldn't envision herself with Jay, viewing him more like a brother. She admitted she experienced some jealousy, but insisted she would attempt to move forward. Jen also clarified that she did not wish to date him. Rather, she had developed some residual feelings due to his affectionate nature and the way he showed her attention, which made her feel special. This was not her first experience with another girl, as Jen identifies as bisexual, but in that instance, she and the girl did not share the same level of intimacy that she had with Jay. Ultimately, Jen decided to spend one last day with Jay, and just a few months later, she ended their friendship, leaving Jay heartbroken. He only expressed his feelings of loss to me since I knew about their situation, and he still thinks about her today, planning to reach out soon since he still cares for her. Recently, Jen called me to share her thoughts, revealing there were times she contemplated ending our friendship because she was struggling to move on from Jay. She felt conflicted since I still posted about him on social media, which upset her. She asked if she could block me temporarily until she felt more at ease about the situation. I declined, emphasizing my care and love for her, as I never wanted to block her nor have her block me. This friendship is significant to me. I expressed to her that it seemed unreasonable to expect me to avoid mentioning my boyfriend, especially when she had already requested that I refrain from discussing him entirely in our conversations. While I understood that Jay's past behavior hurt her, her current stance made me feel like I couldn't share experiences about my relationship with the person she had initially introduced me to. I thought she would be supportive and happy for me, particularly since she understood how past relationships had negatively affected me. Now, it feels as if my happiness inadvertently causes her pain, leading me to doubt the legitimacy of my own feelings. I have also been feeling emotionally drained, as it seems my joy is a source of tension, not only in this situation, but also with my family, friends, and even my long-distance best friend Jen. When Jen orchestrated the introduction with Jay, she believed there would be a good connection between us because we had similar interests and a shared sweetness. Nevertheless, navigating this dynamic between my best friend and boyfriend has presented challenges I have never encountered before, particularly since we were close friends before we began dating. This is a lengthy account, but do you have any advice? Am I at fault in any respects? Is she wrong? Should we consider ending our friendship, or what would you do in my position? Story 4. I am not depressed. Nothing bad happened to me, but but I still keep feeling more and more like shit. Hello, I am feeling quite unwell today, and I thought it might be beneficial to express some of my thoughts. This may become lengthy, so I am uncertain whether anyone will read this, but I hope that simply putting these feelings into words will provide some relief. My parents, who are both in their mid-20s, are wonderful individuals, and I grew up in a nurturing household. Overall, my childhood was pleasant. However, I have increasingly felt unhappy over the past few years, as if I am trapped in a hole that I cannot escape. Let me begin with some background. After finishing school, I chose to attend university. I performed reasonably well, but the course was quite demanding. I had a fair amount of free time each semester and created many enjoyable memories with friends and family, while still dedicating significant time to my studies. I did not socialize much with fellow students, largely sticking to friends from high school or those I met through mutual acquaintances. I will attempt to keep this brief, as it is already too lengthy, but numerous factors led me to ultimately decide to pursue a new course at a different university in another city for a fresh start. I felt compelled to do something more, as I had not fundamentally changed or matured since my school days, which was somewhat troubling. Other influences also made the idea of starting anew quite appealing. Another major reason, which is somewhat embarrassing to admit, is that I had never been intimate with a girl. In general, I have always been quite social and enjoy meeting new people. However, despite this, nothing ever developed into intimacy. It was not something I actively sought out. I assumed it would occur naturally over time. Meeting new people outside my comfort zone seemed like just the approach I needed. At the age of 20, I moved to a city approximately 2.5 hours from my hometown. During the first university welcome event, I met two individuals with whom I immediately connected. We hung out a few times afterward, and it was enjoyable. However, soon after, the seriousness of COVID-19 emerged. As a result, I mostly resumed spending time with friends from home, and whenever I did meet new people, it was limited. I also socialized online frequently, which made the pandemic a manageable time for me. Thankfully, none of my loved ones became seriously ill, and because of my online friends, I coped relatively well despite living in a city where I did not know many people. However, after the worst of the pandemic passed, I struggled to re-establish my social life. The friends I previously spent time with had formed a larger social circle. I got along well with everyone in this new group, and they invited me to join them occasionally, yet I never truly became a member of that friendship circle. I also had a good rapport with another student in my course, but he transferred to a different university after the third semester. At that time, this did not bother me too much, as I maintained strong friendships with people back home and visited my parents often. Eventually, my parents relocated a few hundred kilometers further from my hometown due to job opportunities. Friends offered me a place to stay on weekends, which I have accepted often, but it makes me feel like a burden, and the travel can be quite exhausting and costly. As a result, I ended up seeing my friends back home less frequently. I made an effort to forge new connections in my current city. While I met a few acquaintances, I never established any close friendships. Most people in my course were already entrenched in their own social groups. I also became somewhat embarrassed by the fact that I lacked real friends in this city, which led me to attend parties less frequently, creating a vicious cycle. Over time, I became increasingly lonely. Moving back home was no longer an option, as it would have set me back a few years, and I was already troubled by the fact that I felt I had achieved very little by the age of 23. I grew more and more frustrated with my inability to form new friendships, remaining a virgin, and lacking any significant accomplishments in life. There is also stress from university and work. Making a genuine effort yet failing to build friendships only worsened my feelings. It may sound trivial, but one night, I returned home from a party feeling so low that I resorted to self-harm, as I did not know how to process my emotions otherwise. I have struggled to break free from that cycle since then. Overall, I feel incredibly lonely and increasingly angry with myself. I despise the notion of wasting my prime years in isolation and misery, yet I find myself unable to change. I do not believe I have depression. When I lived in my hometown, I was relatively happy. This is the first time I am sharing this with anyone. My parents are kind and supportive individuals who would undoubtedly lend me their assistance if I confided in them about my feelings. However, they already have enough on their plates. My mother tends to be anxious and worries a lot, and I do not want to add to their concerns. My father had cancer a couple of years ago, and while he has recovered, likely for good, he still faces several serious health challenges due to treatment, which is difficult for both my parents and me. They are aware of my dissatisfaction with life here, but do not know its severity. I also have friends back home who are always supportive, but discussing such matters is challenging when I've barely even hinted at my struggles. I have considered seeking therapy, but the idea of opening up to a stranger terrifies me. Additionally, finding a therapist seems like a significant hurdle that I doubt I possess the strength to manage at this time. Currently, I still reside in the city to which I moved from my hometown. After graduating from university, I felt obliged to find employment here for various reasons. With a full-time job, it seems I am constantly torn between recharging my energy and spending time with friends and family, often neglecting one or the other. This week has been particularly challenging. I am feeling somewhat better now, but prior to writing this, I experienced a strong urge to harm myself more than before. On a positive note, I am likely to return to my hometown at the end of the year. Furthermore, I am performing well at my job, and I am making significant progress at the gym. I apologize for rambling on so much. I hope this all makes sense to anyone who reads this far. Merely expressing these thoughts has already made me feel considerably better.